Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to be part of this very exciting initiative. As many of you know, the concerns of integrating the Roma population and specifically protection of children is one that we're all very concerned about. I think that the project that we're about to unveil is one in which we will all be very excited to be a part of and share in this very important situation. To start, I think it's important that we give you a bit of a framework in terms of case law and the European Union law and the Council of Europe. Children's rights in the European Union basically resulted as part of the Treaty of Lisbon that entered into the force on December 1st, 2009. It gave the 2007 Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union the same legal status as those treaties within EU law. Specifically, Article 24 is the main provision of the Charter that makes reference to children, including principles such as the best interests of the child. Specifically, when we talk about those best interests, they deal with a right of children to protection and care, and more specifically, a right for children to have direct contact with his or her parents unless contrary to his or her interests. Hand in hand with that is the right to respect family life. It's critical to really know that in terms of the European Commission on Human Rights, their case law relates to family life, recognizing interdependent rights. What does that mean? The right to family life and the right of the child to have their best interests as their primary concern. It acknowledges, for instance, that children's rights are sometimes conflicting. The right of the child to respect for family life, for instance, may be limited to secure their best interests. The duty to ensure that children are effectively protected against violence and harm in all settings. States have a duty to provide an adequate legal framework for child protection. As a result of that, they must conduct effective investigations into arguable allegations of child abuse, violence against children, and harm to children. Specifically, when we're looking at the area of children with disabilities, the European Union ensures the enjoyment of human rights by children with disabilities on an equal basis with other children. This is critical, and especially given the factors that we see daily. The European Union must take specific measures to protect children with disabilities from abuse and exploitations. Adaptability requires special measures for children with disabilities and the possibility for children belonging to a minority to learn and be taught in their own language. Children in general, and specifically in terms of our goals, have a right to education regardless of their nationality or migration status. One of the areas that we will be discussing and is integral into this program is child-friendly justice. Making the justice system more child-friendly in Europe is a key action item under the EU agenda for the rights of the child. Children may become involved with the justice systems in a number of ways. When children are involved with justice systems that are not child-friendly, they can be subject to manifold restrictions or violations of their rights. Children can face obstacles with regard to legal representation or being heard by judges. Likewise, the information which is necessary for children and their representatives to exercise their rights or defend their interests in judicial proceedings can be inadequate. Children can be treated as adults without always being afforded specific safeguards in accordance with their needs and vulnerability, and may have difficulties coping with this situation. Therefore, in order to have effective access to justice and participation in administrative and court proceedings, these are basic requirements to ensure a high level of protection of children's legal interests. Again, this is really critical and something that really needs to be reiterated and be part and parcel of what is the underpinnings of what we're searching for here. The best interests of the child. the best interests of the child, a right of children for protection and care, and a right for children to have direct contact with his or her parents unless contrary to his or her interests. Now, specifically regarding the issue of Roma children in the European Union, it's particularly worrying. And the reason why it's particularly worrying is because there are a range of factors that may make them especially vulnerable and exposed to things such as poor health, poor housing, poor nutrition, social exclusion, which I know we will be getting into, as well as discrimination, violence, and most importantly at this point, exclusion from education and training. Social exclusion of Roma children is often linked to lack of birth registration, low participation in early childhood and higher education, high school dropout rates, trafficking, and labor exploitation. When we examine each of those different factors, we can see how, in a very simplistic manner, more education is needed in order to ensure these rights of Roma children. And that can be done by making the community itself more aware and more sensitive to these concerns. Segregation is a crucial barrier preventing access to quality education for Roma children. Children may go missing regardless of their age, gender, or social status. There is little knowledge about the reasons why children run away from home or from institutions in which they live, but we do know that the risks are enormous. We see that daily in our newspapers. We see that daily in terms of the media. There are risks to their safety. There are certainly risks to their mental and physical health and their well-being and their life in general. Missing children, again, can suffer violence and abuse. They can be trafficked or exposed to begging and prostitution. These are issues that we cannot close our eyes to, and as more and more immigration and integration issues are coming to light, are more important than ever before that we look at this vulnerable population and try to safeguard that these things do not occur or at least even get larger than they currently are. The Commission has identified a number of tools that can be of help in case a child is missing. For several years now, some member states have been introducing public alert systems. We will provide you with some of that information later on in the program. In these cases of child abduction or disappearances of children, in these circumstances which could pose a serious threat to the safety and well-being of the children concerned. The Commission will also continue to promote cross-border cooperation between member states in cases of criminal abductions of children through child alert mechanisms. Again, it is critical that members here and participants have a full and complete program of those sources that you can go to in order to be kept abreast. In order to enhance cooperation in this field, the member states agreed in June 2009 on better use of the Schengen Information System and the related Syrian Bureau based in each member state in the search for missing children. Race and ethnic origin are prohibited, as you may know, are prohibited on the grounds of discrimination. Both the EU and the Council of Europe tackle discrimination of the Roma in the areas of education, employment, healthcare, and housing. The overrepresentation of segregation of children belonging to a specific ethnic group in special schools or classes can only be objectively justified if appropriate safeguards for referring children to these schools or classes are put into place. Once again, that is our role, and that is what we're here to sensitize you to. The European Commission on Human Rights held that the overrepresentation or segregation of Roma children in special schools or classes could only be objectively justified by putting in place appropriate safeguards for referring children to these schools or classes. In the absence of effective anti-segregational measures, prolonging the educational segregation of Roma children in a mainstream school with a regular program could thus not, I repeat, could not be justified. For Roma children and these special schools, these safeguards include tests specifically designed for and sensitive to the needs of Roma children. We need to have appropriate evaluation and monitoring of progress, integration in ordinary classes taking place as soon as learning difficulties have been remedied, and as a final result, coming up with positive measures to address learning difficulties. As a result of the information that we've currently shared with you, in addition, we are going to be referring to a number of different links and programs in which you should be familiar with. It's critical for the success of the program that we are not only sensitive to the needs, but we also have to be very well versed in the mechanisms that are there to help protect and move forward this program. It is an exciting and challenging opportunity, and one in which we are very excited to be part of and feel very strongly that we will reach some new inroads in terms of providing this most needed support for the Roma community.
Good afternoon, I am Panagiotis Koutoudis and I represent the Institute of Entrepreneurship Development, partner of PAL project. I would like to begin my presentation with the main points of Arthur's presentation regarding the legal protection of children in the European Union. First of all, the European Union law includes principles such as the best interests of the child, the right of children to protection and care, and the right to have direct contact with their parents unless contrary to their interests. The EU states have a duty to provide adequate legal framework for child protection. Making the justice system more child-friendly in Europe is a key action item under the EU agenda for the rights of the child. The current situation of Roma children in the EU is quite worrying, as they are exposed to poor health, poor housing, poor nutrition, social exclusion, discrimination, violence, and exclusion from education and training. Exclusion from education and training is often linked to segregation, which is a very crucial barrier preventing access to quality education. In order to fight segregation, the Commission will continue to promote cross-border cooperation between Member States in cases of criminal abductions of children through child alert mechanisms. In the absence of effective anti-segregational measures, prolonging the educational segregation of Roma children in a mainstream school with a regular program could thus not be justified. Additionally, to the material already included in the presentation, in the links also provided hereby, you can find some extra material regarding information about the Roma people and Roma communities in EU from the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights, the handbook on European law relating to the rights of the child, which illustrates how European law and case law accommodate the specific interests and needs of children, and also illustrates the importance of parents and guardians or other legal representative of children. A very descriptive report based on a desk study sponsored by UNICEF's National Committee in Germany, which highlights the severity and the causes of exclusion of Roma children and identifies the most critical issues that, if addressed properly, can break the intergenerational cycle of poverty and exclusion and create a new cycle of development, opportunity, and inclusion. Finally, in order to complete the topic, I believe that it is important to highlight the objectives of PAL project, which involve fighting discrimination and anti-gypsyism, enhancing multi-stakeholder cooperation, promoting common democratic values, strengthening fundamental rights, and consolidating the rule of law are horizontal concerns for the participant countries, debating the way forward for the European Network for Roma Social Inclusion, to develop capacities for Roma participation at regional and local level, to develop data and information on forms, approaches, challenges of Roma participation, to raise awareness among relevant stakeholders concerning the need to assure annual access to education and employment, to train and transfer skills on disaggregation to trainers and other stakeholders. In order to ensure the sustainability of the project's results and outputs, PAL partnership will build bridges and develop partnerships among practitioners that share these similar beliefs, promote best practices in working and education with Romani and traveler families and communities, advocate for initiatives which support Romani and traveler parents, share our experience of challenges and opportunities in order to learn from each other. Also, we will support the professional development of practitioners promoting lifelong learning, especially to Roma people, foster advocacy skills amongst practitioners working with Romani and traveler communities in order for them to be able to speak out, and finally, empower members to make their choice heard nationally and internationally. Very important objectives and actions in order to fight Roma discrimination.
Thank you again for participating in this initiative. We look forward to offering you any support, any information, and any additional ways in which we can be of service to you. We know that this is a very important initiative, and we look forward to being successful all together. Thanks.